Well, Republican National Committee reportedly warning White House about losing women voters just before Trump endorsed Roy Moore. To Fox News contributors Kat Timpf and attorney Christi Kunzig. Good to see you both. Kat, I'm just wondering if the economy takes off, all of this won't matter, will it? It's the economy. I mean, that's what it boils down to, right?
Yes and no. I think that this could have some impact when you look at exit polling from Alabama, which found that more than 50% of voters did believe that the allegations against Roy Moore were true, and 60% said that that did impact their vote. So it wasn't just the economy, it impacted their vote. And this is Alabama, where people are, I don't know if you know this, guys, but like super conservative generally in Alabama. So to have President Trump wholeheartedly endorse someone like that, I think that that certainly could hurt with the women vote.
Well, but Christi, he was for Roy Moore's opponent during the primary. Does that matter?
No, I think really if he wants to really target women and kind of get them on board, we're going to have to do a better job at getting some of these frivolous claims, showing how frivolous they actually are, and then really, stressing those successes that he has, like the economy, because that is such an important issue for women. They want to see a thriving economy, and he has that to back him up and say, look, this is how we're winning. Let's really focus on this.
By the way, I just have to say, the bravery of you to come on with a voice where you are struggling, you are doing a great job to make that come out.
Thank you. I'm sorry, that's just my voice.
Go ahead, Kat.
Are you saying the Roy Moore claims are frivolous? Because they were backed up by more than 30 sources by the Washington Post. So
I'm saying
that's about as credible as you can get.
I'm saying a lot of the sources, for example, the person who forged the yearbook, things like that.
She didn't forge the yearbook. She added something at the bottom.
Right, that's a problem. That's a huge problem.
But more than 30 corroborating sources before the yearbook, I don't believe that all these people are lying.
Just to get away from that for a second, because I think that's, in the end, I think most people agreed that much of that was just horrid. But the fact is that the president himself did endorse the opponent of Roy Moore in the primaries. Does he get any credit for that?
I think that the polls show otherwise. I think that people did care about this issue. I mean, to have a Democrat win in Alabama, I don't think that the fact that a Democrat won says something in itself, because that was an outlier race. However, I think the fact that the president did endorse Roy Moore was a huge mistake.
After he didn't endorse Roy Moore.
But I think the fact that he did was a huge mistake, and I know that a lot of people agree with me on that. And I bet you that if he could go back in time, he might not have done it.
Although what's extraordinary, Christi, is how close the race actually ended up.
Right, it was crazy, and I do agree that I think it was an outlier, but I think that that is something we have to consider going forward when we're strategizing, which is what the White House is doing now. They're looking at every single individual race and thinking what they can specifically do in each of those circumstances.
By the way, we just have a Harvard poll that came out, a millennial poll, showing that millennials are now the largest group of voters, the largest single group of voters when you look at age in America, and it's 2-to-1 Democratic. The millennial vote. How does that play into all this?
I think a lot of people vote on social issues, which I guess I get. It's harder to put in the effort to try to understand how the economy works. It's easier to say, okay, well, this social issue, I know how I feel about it, so I'm going to vote based on this, which is part of the reason why, again, I think sexual assault is something that's really big right now, and we are talking about it, which I think is a great thing for women and for humanity in general. And I think that President Trump's endorsement here really is going to hurt some of those social issues voters.
But Christi, if I'm living at home, if I'm a millennial living at home, and suddenly because of the fact I've just been offered a better job because the economy is getting better and I can move out and get my own apartment, I may put one and one together and say, gee, it's because the economy is better under Donald Trump that I'm able to move out of my parents' house.
Well, we hope that they're going to have that thought process and think of it that way. But I agree with Kat Timpf that they're just really into the social issues. They may not think about that as much as they should. And another thing is actually getting them to the polls. That's great that they have all these thoughts and they care about the social issues, but are they motivated to actually go and do anything about it?
Kat?
It's tough. And when we talk about voting on the economy, also, if you look at Alabama again, 60% in Alabama saying that the Roy Moore allegations did influence their vote, not just that they believe them, but that they did influence their vote. If that's Alabama, I think that the fact that President Trump made this endorsement is absolutely going to come up again in the midterms, and it will impact some people.
What do you think happens in the midterms?
I think that it's going to be real tough for the GOP. I think it generally is.
You think they're going to lose the Senate or the House?
I think it's entirely possible. I think it absolutely is.
It is a big haul. We talked about this earlier for the Democrats in the Senate. because they have, I think, 26 or 28 seats that they have to defend, whereas the Republicans only have to defend 8. And there's some of those Democratic senators that are very liable to good opposition, like Senator Nelson from Florida.
Right, I'm thinking that our chances in the Senate are a lot better. It looks better on paper, but you don't want to rest on that. You can't just say, okay, you know what, we have a good shot here. Let's not put our focus there. You have to focus on every single one of these races because they are all important.
And make sure the GOP has to make sure to run good candidates. No more of the kind of nonsense that happened in Alabama, at the very least.
All right, ladies, good stuff. Thank you very much. Good to see you both. Coming up, President Trump saying the battle to fix Obamacare is not over. Who he wants to work with him to help find a solution. That's coming next.